Hi everyone. I shared something in my morning pranayama class and I figured I'll share it here on the video as well. It might be helpful. Post this eclipse window in the year of 2023 that we have just moved through, again, relatively speaking, in time. As consciousness awareness that we do not live in time, but the whole experience of the body, thinking mind, world is a paradoxical, simultaneous happening, one may say, that is happening in time. So in that context, we just moved through the eclipse window, which really was a powerful transformational window where we've now accelerated into the tail end of Dwaparayuga. Dwaparayuga, Dwapara means two, duality. And the experience that the mind is vibrating as, the state of consciousness that we are, that experiences duality, that is because of the personal thought. It's simply an experience. That consciousness that we are having is, the thought comes in and it's an illusion, as in it's happening that doesn't change the core nature of what we are. The wholeness that we are always is, remains, and is all of reality that is experienced in this form is imbued with it. Nothing changes that. But at the level of the relative play of form in experience as mind, the personal I thought that arises because of the mind vibrating that way, and that is the experience of this me as a body through senses, experiencing the seamless reality as if into two, like a person and into a world outside, creating two. That is the experience of duality. That is the state of mind, time, space. That is the Dwaparayuga. The way the mind is vibrating, the self, is how the world is reflected. It's one and the same. So at the level of the relative, we've just moved through a very, very powerful eclipse time, and we were accelerating actually at the tail end of Dwaparayuga. It's an ascending, you can say, of moving out of Dwaparayuga into Tretayuga. Tretayuga, which is awakening to our truer self as awareness, stepping out of time. I am consciousness. And we're moving into this at this point. And one of the key realizations, because it's a paradigm shift, it's a complete different identity and way of being itself. So it's not about empowering the self like how we experience in and as the body, as if we are living in time. It's awakening to self-realization out of time. And in that we realize so clearly that everything is opposite, which of course our scriptures, including Bhagavad Gita, all of them have always, the Vedas, all of them have always stated it is opposite. The nature of mind, Shakti, is the opposite of what our true nature is. As pure consciousness, it's attributeless, it's imperceptible, it's unknown, it's formless. All these words that we use, of course, simply pointers, all imperfect and ultimately inaccurate. But we cannot say anything much about the pure consciousness. But as manifested consciousness, that's the relative world, which is only possible because of the existence, which is mind. We are, moving through that phase where we really realize everything is opposite. That's why. Because mind itself is opposite nature. It's nature. It has attributes to it. It has flavors to it. Infinite ways. one of which we are experiencing as this body, as an I, as physicality, five senses. Now, when we are identified only with this, we need, especially the tail end of Dwaparayuga, it's really key for us to deepen into understanding the paradoxical experience, one may say, of these two states, without which we can get lost in our world, which is nothing but the conditions of our own mind. The conditioned mind, personal I, and the world is the same. It's the known world. We can get lost in it, so we need to hold both. As this relative experience, in the context of pranayama, or to bring it back to that, we tend to think that naturally, right, that as the body, I am breathing. And so we even step into any practices, this is relevant, any practice that we do, wherever we find ourselves, or any moment that we are moving through life, when we are identified with the body, we think that it's the body that is moving. It is the body. I am doing this, right? It's the doer. I am doing this, because we are completely identified by just this limited, which is fine, and it's set up that way. We set it up that way so that the play can be real for us, right? Believe me, it's real and valid for us, right, when we are living in that. But it's very key to hold the other end. Why? Because that is the primary ground on which this play can be played really well. Really well. So, at the level of pranayama also, or any practice, we tend to think we enter pranayama as a practice or this thing that I am doing it. And the invitation here is to truly kind of loosen from that. That's why every practice, truly, when we step into it with what we call as the beginner's mind, and that's why even the videos that I share, primarily I invite first and foremost that we enter into it with a state of beginner's mind or Zen's mind, that is leaving the identity that we are so familiar with outside, open. And in that which we are, those insights, that opens up to us. Because we already are that. We already are, everything is consciousness, but we already are that. There is nothing really ultimately that comes from the perceived outer. Comes, even if we receive it as words, it's just symbolic. It's a reminder to ourselves of that which we already are. That's the aha. That receiving of that is from inwards. Similarly, for pranayama, when we enter that, we can really open ourselves to receiving and seeing that this is how, before the yoginis, the yoga rishis, the seers, the saints, the sages, the mystics, all of them, before this came into written form, this came into form of that we do today as yoga, physicality, asana, as we do this. The yoga, the presence of yoga is just that which we are. Yoga is living life. The breath in the context of pranayama is that is breathing the body. It is not the body that is breathing the breath. That is opposite. The breath is breathing the body. The breath, the subtle, the unseen, is the Shiva Tattva. That is breathing the body. And in this experience of the mind, state of consciousness, the breath breathes the body comes into existence, the perception of it. We know that as soon as the breath stops, life stops. This living in this relative thing stops. This experience of living physicality stops. The subtle, the unseen is the source. of what is seen, what is experienced as matter. At the level of physicality, the feminine energy, the unseen, subtle desire, intention, life that pours in, trickles in our deepest moments. Trust that. That's the invitation. That, if it's already here, it's already manifested. There is no personal I manifesting. The personal experience itself is an experience that is manifested. I am as consciousness, manifest, having this experience. This is the power. So even in pranayama, that's why. First and foremost, we take so much time. Most of the pranayama in the beginning is to come into this space, this identity. It's not the quantity or the time that we spend. That's the third density body, mind, world experience when we live in time. That we need to practice for hours, for days, for years before transformation happens. As consciousness, instant. Like self-realization does not happen in time. It's just the mind awakening to that which it already is. Always was, ever present. So even at the level of pranayama, we take the time first to anchor ourselves into that space as awareness. And then even one breath in that state is enough to awaken and transform. This, in all practices, whatever you do, this possibility is and exists. That's the invitation, especially as we move through the tail end of Dwaparayuga, where we will sense time accelerating, fluid. It's getting fluid, flow. We're deepening to the age of Aquarius, moving into Tretayuga state of mind. Timelessness, relatively of course. The breath. When we stay with the breath, that naturally switches off the thinking mind and therefore diminishes the experience of living in time, the linear time, and the conditions that we carry as beliefs brings us back to the present moment, into our body, deeper than that. Thinking, feeling, being, awareness state. As we are with the breath, when we deepen into this, there's another thing that will happen that we can sense, which all our ancient knowledge already has been sharing and knew this before it came into written form. You know, the Yoga Rishis knew this and it was written. Only that's why the written Vedas, any written material, is for that state of mind that was coming, that was going to get, the consciousness was getting dense. It's a natural ebb and flow. When we lose ourselves and live in a tamasic state as if we are just the form out of which we are arising right now. As we come into our subtler state, into presence, isness, another thing that we'll notice is that there is no personal doer. As a person we think we do, that's a different level of play. Reality can be connected to the true reality that we are, seamless, present. Awareness can be connected via the breath. As we do that, we may see another way, that how the breath and the movement of breath moves the body. It offers us deep clues. The left nostril is the feminine, lunar, moon nostril. The state of being, the state of receiving. The right nostril is the solar, sun, activated, doing in this world, projecting, expressing. This portal that we are, the unique expression and pouring, one may say, of life energy, the purpose that we are, is dynamic. It cannot be put in a concept. When we connect to our breath and deepen, we can see that. When the left nostril is open, working, and we have not been attached to the personal mind, I'll come to that. When it's open, be in the receiving space. Allow the body, the thought to dissolve, rest. Naturally, you'll see how the body moves, because this is in response. Again, everything is in context. Just keep saying, put the thought away, and the mind gets boggled, the thinking personal mind. If I keep my thought away, how will I function? Actually, we'll function better. Being conscious as awareness is to know the role of this conscious mind, when to pick it up, when to know. It's the known mind. It only is conditioned for the world, for the practical aspects of the world. Picking it up to do that is fine when we are doing the activities of the world. Going from one place to another, driving a car, cutting vegetables, picking whatever that might be. But when it comes to living life itself, it has no role. It can only assume. It is a partner for that which we are. So when we know this, come into this. The breath from the left nostril, be. It automatically shifts. And that's why this is so unique. That's why the true self cannot come from anywhere else. Nobody else can change. And it's so dynamic. We get caught sometimes in identities. This is my purpose in this life. This is what. It may be so. You might have an inherent theme. That's a different thing. Every arising breath has us move. Left, be. When it moves to the right, automatically shifts to what we have received, we can sense, and that is then expressed naturally. That is done. All the seers, the yogis, the yoginis who lived in this state and moved as life itself, awareness, every moment, moved just as this. There was no thinking. It's just being, doing. That's why some of them, as their dynamic life purpose was moving, was more of doing. That's the role that life was playing in the world. Some of them, absolutely the solar would hardly work. It was the lunar that was in this thing. They were holding the energetic aspect. Their gift, their presence was their energy, their presence itself of being that held the space for all of it. Such is the power. What are we here for? This can help us determine. It needn't be put in a concept, because we are moving out of the mind which lives as a concept, as a thought, as if things are static. And for some time, from Dwaparayuga to Tretayuga, we will find ourselves in this mind vibration, because if we open our eyes, physicality is still on this paradoxical state. But this is two states. One, the psychological state, that is the source. Mind is everything. Psychological, the psychic field, is timeless, present, while the body moves in time. But the body, the thinking mind, the world is an afterthought. It's a different, so we are kind of straddling both worlds, one may say. And we are called right now to deepen into that. I'll share more about in my Dwaparayuga. It's again, as this is intuition. What I'm talking about is intuition related to the breath, and we move according to that. So even for me, it's taking a little time for the Dwaparayuga video because I just moved to this. This is what they called a Shruti. This is how the yoga rishis were. They were pure energy, bringing in the knowledge that is relevant for where we find ourselves and what is coming. We are used to living as the personal I, thought, mind, which is smriti, living as memory, never present, ever moving between the past or the future, just as thought. That's simply an experience we are moving out of and now moving into timeless space. Moving into an age, mind, experience, living as energy, as consciousness itself. Play with this. Allow this to be playful. Again, the transformation is already happening. All these words, everything simply in service, simply as pointers for the mind, the thinking mind that loves and seeks and wants to understand that which it really cannot understand. But this helps it relax a little bit so that it can align to that which we are, the transformation that is already happening. Allow every moment to be a living practice of this. Much, much love. A beautiful, beautiful day. I'll see you soon.